On the 23rd of March 2005, flammable hydrocarbons vapors was released into the atmosphere. The ignited chemicals vapor caused a massive explosions near the isomerization units in the Texas City's refinery. BP, the British Petroleum, it is a British multinational oil and gas company. The Texas City's refinery caused deaths of 17 people and injuries 170. It was the second largest oil refinery in the state and the third largest in the United States. Okay, our presentation is going to be divided into 3 parts. Sunny will discuss the inherent weakness in this system, and I will present the inadequate management policy. Last but not least, King will highlight the improper safety culture and the regulations. Now, I will pass the time to Sunny.
Okay, thank you, Hammer. After Hammer's brief introduction, I think all of you get some basic information about our presentation. Now, I'm going to present the main inherent technical problem causing these accidents. The PowerPoint will show you some of the inherent problem behind. First of all, in the isomerization unit setup procedures, there was the level control valve here. It was responsible for sending the liquid from the tower to the storage. However, this valve was closed by an operator, and the tower was filled for over 3 hours without any liquid being removed. Then it leads to the flooding of the tower and then building a high pressure which activates the release valve that discharge flammable liquids to the bolt-on systems. What are the underlying factors involved in overfilling the towers? The tower level indicators, this one is the tower level indicators, which was incapable for sensing any liquids over 10 feet levels. If it was over the levels, and then it will send a report to the controller. But in this case, it shows that the tower level was declining when it was actually overfilling. The high level alarms also did not activate, and the tower was not equipped with any other indicators or safety device. Finally, the actual level was about 104 feet, which was almost 10 times more than the original one. Moreover, when it comes to the size of the bolt-on jumps, it was insufficient to contain the liquids sent it by the pressure relief valves. Then the jump was overfilled and the stick went flammable liquids to the atmosphere, which fall in the ground and then form a vapor cloud that ignited. It's really dangerous. Moreover, the use of bolt-on stick is not a good choice in workplace. Nowadays, most of the refineries are equipped with a device called flare stick. The purpose of this equipment is to combust unwanted flammable gas and volatile liquid released from the pressure relief valve. Bolt-on stick, which was a system used in the Texas City refineries, does a similar job by depressing the unwanted byproducts of the process and releasing them into the atmosphere. Unlike the flare systems, bolt-on system take a longer time to process the hydrocarbons. In consequence, the pressures may build up inside the tank and lead to sudden discharge of thick and hot gas into the air. So as to avoid such situations, most of the refineries has upgraded this equipment long ago. And yes, BP still insists of using bolt-on jumps just because of its cheap price and convenience. That's all about the inherent technical problems. Now, Hammer, it's your turn again.
Thank you so much, Sunny. Now, I'm going to present the inadequate management policy. Firstly, cost-cutting efforts by senior manager at BP contributed to a deadly explosions at the refineries in Texas. In the 1995, BP announced 25% of reductions in the cost. In the coming 8 years, they cut 84% of the total cost. See, this is the statistic. They cut totally 84% the cost. A working schedule so that all workers need to work 12 hours shift for more than 4 weeks without a day off. Emergence, you need to work 12 hours a day and no day off in 4 consecutive weeks. How tired will you be? BP wants to save the cost by cutting the numbers of the workers. Cost slash under the situations of lack of the worker. Those workers had to take a heavier workload. So it is easiest for them to make a mistake because they are really tired. Secondly, the leadership accountability of BP's managerial teams was extremely weak due to frequently change. BP has been changed 3 times managerial teams from 1995. In 1998, the second time for BP changed their managerial teams. Many regulations were changed. For example, extends the working hours of workers, reassigns the job positions. Workers were tired to settle down. When they did, a new managerial team was ready. So, workers were hard to adapt. Gradually, a frustrated working conditions was established. In other words, frequently change of managerial teams decreased the working efficiency of the workers. Thirdly, managerial teams always reject the ideas from the employees. In the internal reports of BT, they record many times of campaigns from their employees, such as the poor working conditions and some risks they face. But no records of improvement has been found in the reports submitted to the U.S. Safety and Hazardous Investigations Boards. Emergence, if you know there are a lot of issues in your working environments, but in your companies, but you cannot do anything. How do you feel? For me, I will feel frustrated. This was the difficulties BT's workers faced. To sum up, this was the conflict between profits and the health and the safety of the employees. As I mentioned before, the BP's workers need to work 12 hours on shift. This was the consequences of cutting 84% of total costs. Tires worker caused careless mistakes on the 23rd of March. Obviously, the determinant of this catastrophe was the BT's greedy for the money. I think the safety of the employee must be the most important priorities under all circumstances. Hence, if they can prove the safety of the worker, they can do anything. They can cut their costs in the next step. So finally, some words for me. Lives are priceless, and those lives cannot be bought by the money. So every engineer, please don't let the tears of the innocents to drop again. Now I will let Kings to take the floor.
All right, thank you, Hammer, for your excellent elaboration
Yes,
on
thank you.
fatal flaws within the management department. Well, however, I'd like to point out that if the fatal flaws within the management department and inadequate policies were the only issues in this accident, I don't think this catastrophe would have happened, or at least no lives would have been lost. I would like to highlight the lack of safety culture and regulation as a primary reason for this accident. Firstly, the extended working hours and vacancy of senior supervisor acted as a catalyst to this event. A refinery is told to be in the most dangerous state, not when it is up and running, but when it's in transition, meaning reoperating an offline facility. This process is also also called a turnaround process. Our operation, which should have been conducted by a senior supervisor who's adept and experienced, was left to the hands of exhausted rookies, as Hammer rightly pointed out, who were working for 4 consecutive weeks without a single day off. With degraded problem solving and decision-making capabilities, how can we expect them to make a responsive decision, a good decision that will help to solve the problem? Also, in this situation, control room was just destined to overlook the ill omens of imminent dangers. During maintenance period, BP allowed their workers to work up to 84 hours per week, and they had no limit on consecutive days work. However, I'd like to point out that nuclear workers are limited and restricted to 14 days work, pilots 100 hours per month, and merchant sailors 70 hours per week. In a refinery where we are dealing with dangerous chemicals, volatile chemicals, how can we have no regulations about working hours? Something's definitely wrong. Also, I would like to talk about the inappropriate trainings that the operators received. These trainings they covered just barely the basic situations. They were given no proper simulations so that they can take immediate actions when something goes wrong. Also, the refinery turnaround process, which, as I have mentioned, is very dangerous, was unknown to most of the employees. BP should have noticed and evacuated the facility so as to ensure that nobody got too close to the isomerization unit. However, in fact, the trailer car with 11 people on board was parked right next to the isomerization unit. And these people disintegrated in a blink of an eye as the firestorm struck the refinery. Had BP done a proper job of evacuating the people and letting their employees know about what's going on in the refinery, maybe those 11 lives may have been saved. Speaking of turnaround process, I would like to talk about startup processes that were used in this operation. Firstly, the outdated manuals and instructions encourage deviations to suit the modification of the equipment itself. However, these deviations and these modifications were performed without any hazard analysis from the management department, meaning that these deviations could potentially be very, very dangerous. Also, because these operations were done without any hazard analysis, they had no safety implications on them. The turnaround process involves about 30,000 procedures of moving and removing dangerous chemicals. And if they have no safety implications on the instructions, how can the engineers and operators could possibly think of all the possibilities? This is definitely not safe. To sum up my part of the presentation, in a refinery where the workers are risking their lives to work, we need some kind of regulations. However, there was no limit, no restrictions on the workers' working hours. There was no proper regulations about startup procedures and how they should actually reoperate this facility. That's part of my presentation. Now I'd like to let Sunny discuss about the ethical implications of our case.
Thank you. As my members and I mentioned before, the serious accident can be attributed to the above 3 reasons. They are technical, organizational, and safety issues. Now, I would like to investigate these charges into ethical issues. As stated in WFEO, it provides some fundamental guidelines to the engineers about the ethical issues. In this case, obviously, some of the rules are breached. As an engineer, you should hold paramount of the safety, health, and wealth of the public as well as the workers. Do you still remember what Hammer said before about the workers? How harsh to the workers? It clearly reveals that the health within the workspace cannot be maintained, and we can easily guess how safety it is. If most of the workers were too tired and they still worked for a long time. What's more, BP and the engineers did not take any actions, even they knew that the equipment was not in conditions but not very serious. The behind reason is very simple. Just because of the money, one thing we should bear in mind that greed and ignorance are always the main reasons for a big disaster. However, in this case, they failed to do so. The last thing I would like to point out, which is the most important one to all the engineers, including us, is that as an engineer, he or she should present clearly to the employees, in this case BP is the employees, and the possible consequence of overruling or disregarding of engineering decisions or judgment. They should report to their association or appropriate agents any illegal or unethical engineering decisions of engineers or others. Once again, as you are an engineer, no matter what situation you are, even though you would be fired after you are reporting, you must still report, and then because you must place the safety of the public and the worker in the first priority. In the last part of our presentation, we will let King to summarize.
In our presentation, we have examined the few of many causes of Texas City refinery disaster. Firstly, as Sunny mentioned, the inherent problem, the inherent technical problem and the design faults were one of them, and another management policies issue, and also lack of safety and regulations. However, the one important cause, the one that we cannot overlook, I believe is the ability of BP's ability for profit. BP not only rejected to purchase up-to-date equipment, but they also did not allow any repairment to the inoperative facility and outdated equipments. BP's unwillingness to decrease their profit from $1 billion to $990 million killed 17 lives, and these lives cannot be accounted with a figure. Therefore, they are priceless. However, to BP, these lives were just expendable and replaceable, therefore worthless. We believe that life is valuable. Life cannot be accounted with money. As an engineer, as a professional engineer, we should always hold paramount the safety and well-being of the public, but also the safety and well-being of ourselves. I would like to ask you one question. Do we exist for engineering, or does engineering exist for us? What is your answer? Thank you.